It's time, once again, for everybody to step upon the Lookout Sir Warhammer 40,000 podcast train. I'm not entirely sure where I was going with that. This is episode 71 of the Lookout Sir Warhammer 40,000 podcast. Welcome, everybody. My name is Dan. It is my privilege, my pleasure, and indeed my... Oh, I always run out of extra P's at this point. Pronunciation to, host this lovely show. And I'm joined as ever by my good buddy Phil. Probably my worst intro ever, wouldn't you say so, Phil?
Indeed, yeah. It was completely scrap it and redo it for sure.
Do you want me to redo it?
No. I'm just teasing. It was fine.
See, I know, because sometimes there's.
Question, I didn't get to. I was going to do an all aboard introduction for myself.
Oh, sorry, Phil. Sorry. If we had only rehearsed this, we could have refined it. Well, we can introduce you there. And joining me as ever is the ticket master. They called ticket masters? What are they called? The conductor.
Train conductor.
Good old Phil.
You calling me the fat conductor from Thomas the Tank Engine?
No. He wasn't a conductor. He was a controller.
Oh, yeah,
true. Controller.
Good point.
The conductor was a slender man, known for their, beautiful sideburns and beards, which obviously you, beautifully, fashion.
Yeah.
So there it is.
Well,
You're going to do the tickets, please bit, or are we just going to keep going?
Yeah. All aboard. Tickets, please. Or my favourite from Indiana Jones, no ticket. People get that reference.
Which Indiana Jones film was that from? No ticket.
Last Crusade.
Yes.
But we've done a classic ramble where we haven't, when we shouldn't be doing that anymore.
Well, exactly. That's not the nature of the show. It's a quick, sturdy intro, and ultimately, I suppose it could be a bit tiresome for some to have these weird, rambly, distractions. Much like the topic for today, which is Phil.
Ooh. Am I doing a reaction, or am I actually announcing it? Oh, I guess.
Yeah, you're actually saying what. We'll get there, mate. We'll get there. We'll work out this pattern. We'll get. I know this is still kind of new, but Tell us what we're talking about today, Phil.
We're doing all about hobby fatigue. Anything to do with feeling in that lull, in a rut, don't want to paint, don't want to make your models, and potentially ways to get out of it and actually get cracking on with your models.
Lovely stuff. But before we do any of that, it is customary now that we need to hand over to our 5-star review.
Peter!
Oh, hello, Dad.
What are you doing in here, son?
Oh,
What have I told you about wasting your time with these little plastic figurines?
It's not a waste of time, I like it.
How dare you talk back to me, Peter? It's about time you grew up.
I don't want to grow up. Oh, man, maybe there's something on the radio. Yeah, this is nicer.
Peter!
What's that?
That's right, it's me, the ghost of a award-winning TV and radio presenter, Jeremy Beadle.
Jeremy Beadle?
Yeah, that's right.
Wow.
Now let me tell you here, Sonny, my dad was always telling me to grow up, and I never did. And look how successful I was. So ignore him, Peter, and keep playing with that little plastic crack. And while you're at it, listen to the Lookout Sir podcast, which right now, it's time for the 5-star review.
Wow, thanks, Jeremy.
Who are you talking to with there, son?
Jeremy Beadle.
What? No!
This 5-star review comes from the wonderful land of the United States of America. And this is from a iTunes podcast user by the name of Runner2DMax, which sounds like a very exhilarating and or groovy name. Very down with the kids, wouldn't you say so, Phil?
A pair of sports shoes.
A pair of sports shoes, yes, potentially. Maybe a pair of Air Jordans. Those are shoes, aren't they?
Exactly. Runner2DMax. That is the perfect brand name.
Yeah, they could be a pair of Air Jordan shoes. Or what do they call them in America? Sneakers?
Pumps? I'm not sure.
Are they pumps or sneakers?
Both, probably.
I only remember it from that Simpsons reference where, Grandpa Simpson says he saw a guy wearing sneakers for sneaking. Anyway, his review reads, pretty good in unit, which I assume is supposed to say in it, but you spell it INNUIT, so in, like, you know,
or
a
is
tavern.
it Inuit? Is he that part
Inuit?
of America? He's like pretty good Inuit.
Pretty good Inuit. Well, there you
Maybe.
go. I didn't even think about that. Is that how you would pronounce Inuit? I've never been confronted with that word before.
I mean, I'm pretty sure that's how you pronounce it. I don't know if that's the right spelling though.
Well, exactly. Well, anyway, I would have assumed he was going for pretty good in it, but the way he's written it is in unit.
I like in unit. Like that could be total slang. Down with the kid.
Whatever the case, it's a 5-star review, and he says these Brits make enjoyable content that is that this American can get behind. There you go. Look, he's thrown in all the slang. American, I assuming being shorthand for an American. Come here if you like rambling content with a familiar feel. I would say this podcast is focused, but I'll tell you what, it's still pretty good in it. So he actually did write in it correctly at the end. So I'm very confused. He must have very specifically gone with Inuit, as you said.
Maybe, yeah.
Who knows? Who knows? I mean, look, at the end of the day, this individual was, chosen to deliver the language how they've seen fit. And it is our duty to thank them for that. So obviously for myself, thank you very much, Runner 2 D-Max. Phil, please elaborate.
Thank you very much. Highly expensive and trendy pair of sneakers. We appreciate the branding. We appreciate the thanks in it. We appreciate the casual parlance of slang that you're using because we're down with the kids. You can't see I'm doing air quotes. Thank you very much. You wanted a rambling segment. You've got a rambling-ish intro and a rambling 5-star review. So you got what you wished for.
It is a thing of true beauty. Why does no one ever call them plimsolls anymore? Whatever happened to plimsolls, Phil?
That is very British. I think aren't plimsolls very specific though? So
is that a brand of shoe? Is that what the problem is?
No. I think our version of plimsolls is very much like Converse. They're the fabric top with the flat bottoms. That is a plimsoll. Yeah. I
don't know why in my head, but I'm assuming plimsolls had something to do with rowing for some reason, like some kind of footwear you might wear while on a boardwalk or, heading towards some kind of boat.
Maybe. Aren't they loafers?
I don't know. Oh, maybe those are loafers. See, this is the thing. I'm demonstrating my continuing lack of understanding when it comes to shoes.
Shoe knowledge.
Exactly. I'm no good. I'm no good when it comes to shoes. Or, concise intros, as it would seem. Anyway, I imagine that's enough of that noise. Let's do a transitional noise and get on to talking about hobby fatigue. Away we go now. Woo! Welcome back, everyone. Always feels a little odd saying welcome back so immediately after doing the introduction, because I imagine you probably haven't gone anywhere. If anything, this is probably the first thing you're listening to. But me and Phil are here to talk about hobby fatigue. Oh, it's so difficult to stay motivated, isn't it, Phil?
Boo-hoo, yes.
I love that we're sort of kicking off with this kind of narrative that we're sort of cheapening the experience, like we're not taking it very seriously. I mean, truth be told, hobby fatigue is very real, especially in these conditions. And obviously, I don't want to sort of come across all kind of, ridiculous when I say this, but it's a difficult thing to deal with in the current climate because, motivation and just a general sense of, of purpose and of again, the motivation thing to get up and actually, not just spend the evening in front of Netflix and actually sit down at a desk and start building and painting and engaging in your hobby when there's no real kind of clear objectives to work towards is difficult, right?
Yeah, I think everyone has their own sort of personal motivations in terms of what drives them to build and paint. Because obviously not everyone even collects armies. Some people just collect the odd model here and there. Some people love painting, other people hate it. Some people just want to play games and don't really want to do anything else, so they get commissioned painters to do their armies instead. And then other people just love doing absolutely everything or converting models. So everyone has their own sort of personal motivations, which I guess is impacted by the current world situation. So, for example, at the moment, well, at least in the UK, there's not many games happening. So if you particularly enjoy playing games and that's what motivates you to build that next model, then you're probably going to be quite unmotivated at the moment to do anything.
Yeah, it's true for sure. And I think, you know, one of the things that I want to be completely transparent with our listeners about is that, you know, a lot of this is based off of kind of best practices and things that I've seen that have been helpful for others and things that I've picked up from conversations with other hobbyists. I mean, you know, being as entrenched in this community as myself and Phil are, we have a number of people that we talk to on a regular basis in different groups, in different places, where we share stories of our, you know, ongoing efforts. And, you know, you've got some absolutely amazing hobbyists that we're fortunate enough to be, you know, friends with or know through just, you know, mutual acquaintances or general kind of engagement with this hobby. And that is incredibly powerful for you. But truth be told, for me, so much of my hobby is built around the game, as it were. And I think there's been a couple elements at play that have impacted my experience, and we'll get to those as we start diving into the meat of this conversation. But really, for me, so much of my hobby is actually now consumed around creating this podcast. Certainly now that we've gone weekly, but just in the general sense, you know, I've been very open and honest about this. This podcast has meant a real lot to me over the course of the last few years that we've been doing it. And I'm really happy with where it's at and what we're doing with it at the moment. But it requires work. And, you know, with the increased emphasis on a bit of better production, a little bit better kind of refinement, both myself and Phil have had to kind of step back from, you know, building and painting miniatures while we're recording content, for example. You know, I know that was big for you for a while, Phil, right? It used to be your one night of the week where you used to really focus on hobby. You'd be sat there, you know, painting away while also, you know, producing content.
It was, especially back in the days when we had a third person, whoever that person was. It used to be quite useful. It would be like a dedicated night every week, because even when we weren't weekly, we still recorded every week and just smushed it together to be a jumbo episode. You know, Dan is famous for going on long, epic monologues. So I would just mute myself for 10 minutes and I would just let him go. And I would get my green stuff out and start sculpting or, you know, gluing bits, filing bits, all sorts. Can't do that anymore. You've got to be far too professional. I can't. Now there's no one to also kick the blame to when there's some rustling going on in the background. So, yeah, so we are a bit more on it in terms of the hobbying that we do. I don't do hobbying while we're podcasting anymore, which is a bit of a shame because it was a nice, you know, 2-3 hours of doing stuff. Just prior to recording this, we were saying we just need to do another non-podcast recording where we do the exact same thing and we hang out on Skype or something and just do some hobbying sort of together.
Yeah, I think that'll be something essential that we need to add to it. I think that's something that I think everyone in our immediate friend group would benefit from and something that we should make the time for as just friends. And I think, you know, again, I suppose coming back to hobby fatigue and the topic at hand, I think, you know, the first port of call has got to be your hobby friends, as it were. And, you know, one of the unique and incredible things about this hobby, and one of the things I've always loved about it, is the fact that, you know, all of us in this hobby have, or should theoretically have, connections with friends or loved ones, whoever it may be, that share our interest and share our passion for this, because it's a very sociable hobby, and by design, it's one of the most appealing aspects of it. So everyone, you know, who I consider a close friend in my adult life has now got some connection to this hobby. And that's a terrifying statement in some regards, but also a really lovely one in many other ways, because I've moved around the country for work purposes. And it's always been amazing. Wherever I've gone, I've been able to make friends very quickly because I've just been able to go down to Games Workshop stores or get involved in local communities and meet like-minded people. And that's been hugely motivating throughout. But it's also been something that I've just been really kind of passionate about, and something that's made the hobby really important to me. So I think relying on your friends is definitely a great place to start in terms of, you know, beating away that hobby fatigue and helping you become more focused. And I think, as you were saying there, Phil, it's mad that we haven't actually had this conversation prior to this recording, but we really should be making time just to hang out like we used to, maybe on a Saturday, maybe on a Sunday, maybe on a Thursday, Wednesday evening, whatever it may be, and actually just get together and build some models and chat a load of nonsense.
Because we did it in the first lockdown, not in a hobby sense, but we just did it and we played some online games together to sort of all hang out in some sense. And then whenever there's a Warhammer preview, we tend to all get together and watch that sort of simultaneously, which is always fun because you always get the Twitch stream coming through someone else's audio pickup, and it's like who are we blaming for that one? But an actual hobby hangout I think is actually a really good idea. I know quite a lot of people that do it with their social groups, and that's even prior to lockdown is just something that they were doing on a regular basis anyway. And especially for people like us where all of our friends are all over the country, it sort of is a good way of going about it, I think, to kind of maintain your kind of enthusiasm to meet up and hang out and paint and make.
Totally. I think one of the things that's really interesting for me as well, and one of the things that's been really amazing for me and helped me a lot in terms of, handling all the different pressure points that it has been this lockdown, is the correspondence that I have with listeners and people who reach out to us and people who, tell us about how much this podcast is having an impact on their own hobby. Only this week I've had a handful of people reach out to me and just, express how much they appreciate the show, but also how much, they use us for motivation. And I think, again, I appreciate when I start getting into these sorts of topics, it all starts to sound a little bit sort of sycophantic and a little bit kind of self-obsessed. I'm not here sat upon my jeweled throne, feeding off of the the positive emotional energy of the people, and I don't want to sort of ever make myself seem that sort of grandiose, as it were, because at the end of the day I like to think of myself as a very approachable and very normal hobbyist who is always keen to just chat and engage with everybody. I always find it hilarious when people message me or message us on the Lookout Sir Facebook group and they're amazed I even respond. Like, they're just like, oh my God, you actually responded. And it's like, well, yeah, I mean, one, this hardly happens. Like, maybe like one or two, people reach out to us every month. And two, why wouldn't I respond to you? I mean, you've been nice enough to say nice stuff.
Yeah, it's not like we're so big and famous that we have secretaries to answer our emails for us or anything like that.
No, maybe one day, Phil, but then I don't know, right? As soon as you that's always my scariest thing. And again, this is a tangent and I'll make it quick. It's always my scariest thing with this show. I never want it to get too big because I think the minute it becomes too big, it becomes something entirely different. And then it just starts to lose some of its charm. But irrespective of that, I find it really amazing when people reach out to us and saying how much this has positively impacted their hobby. And I'm really grateful for the fact that I get to sit alongside thousands of gamers all around the world and, act as some form of motivation or some form of, entertainment while these guys are, painting and building and creating some absolutely amazing hobby. And that's fantastic, right? I mean, what a bizarre situation to be in, to imagine that right now these words are being heard by who knows how many people as they're sat hunched over their desks painting some absolutely incredible miniatures. And that's cool, right? I mean, that's not a bad situation to find yourself in.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I guess that's part and parcel of doing kind of content for 40k. And it's like when I'm painting or building or whatever, I'm listening to other content creators on like YouTube, for example, or like another podcast. It's either that or like Black Library audiobooks is my other sort of go-to if I'm going to do something while I'm painting, because that way you can consume more 40k content, but you don't have to sit down and spend the time to read a book. And that is one thing I do really enjoy. Like, quite often I'll listen to a Black Library story and then there'd be something really cool about it that makes me go, I'd like to build that or create a character inspired by that story. Or, sometimes I'm like, oh man, I'd love to do a diorama or something based on that scene. So I think inspiration for your hobby can come from lots of different sources. So it can come from the stories and books, but it can, as you say, come from other people that are around you. I think, called out to like Instagram being probably the best social platform for seeing people's hobby art and miniatures. I mean, sometimes it's depressing in a way because they're so talented, a lot of people, and it makes you go, oh, I can never be that good. But then at the same time, it does inspire you to also kind of try and, up your game a bit as well. Or it's just great that you can actually reach out to these people and be like, oh, cool, how did you do this? How did you do that? What parts have you made this conversion from? And 90% of the time, people will always respond to you. So it's worth doing to reach out to people and just, follow loads of people and engage with them.
Totally, man. I mean, online communities have been so invaluable during this, these various lockdowns and during all this COVID stuff, because engaging with people and seeking out great artists or great gamers, great whatever, terrain manufacturers, builders, whatever you want to say, these guys are passionate hobbyists, and most of us are very open to the idea of communicating with others who share our general kind of passion and enthusiasm for the hobby. So I think that's always a really cool thing. And I've been involved in many online communities. Bizarrely, probably my most active of recent memory is probably the Death Watch Facebook group. I've been relatively involved with that because I just don't know, it's one of those things that the Facebook algorithm started that I'd answered or engaged in a couple of conversations in it, so then it kept going, hey, so and so just posted something on the Death Watch thing, and I go, oh, that's interesting, let's have a look. And then kind of because obviously Facebook is just trying to get me to stay engaged at all times, and obviously it sees that I've taken an interest in Deathwatch, for example, so why not just keep feeding him Deathwatch content? But I joined a Necromunda terrain group recently.
Yeah, I think I know the
which
one.
is fantastic. I mean, I'm in the process at the moment. One of my big hobby goals for this year, off the back of many conversations, but most notably our recent terrain conversation, is to up my game in terms of my gaming spaces, my gaming surfaces, my tables. And I am currently investing in all the stuff to start building what I hope will be a really fantastic gaming board that will, maybe lead to some fantastic games. But those Facebook groups and those Instagram accounts and everything that's going on in that space are so invaluable in kind of keeping you connected to the hobby. Bizarrely for me, I find the Facebook groups more engaging than the Instagram stuff. I think Instagram's great for sort of bite-sized. It's almost like you look at it and you go, wow, that's great. But I never really see something and go, oh, I'm going to replicate that, or I'm going to take that, I'm going to make that mine. I just kind of appreciate it for what it is. I suppose it's like the way I hobby, it's like looking at a Golden Demon showcase. I look at it and go, God, that's amazing. I might nick that color scheme, but I'm not necessarily thinking I want to replicate that level of quality, because I just know I'm not going to get there. Or if I am going to get there, I'm not going to put the work in to get there, because it's just not how I deal with the hobby, right? It's not the thing I consider important. Whereas you, Phil, might go to a Golden Demon and be like, what am I taking away from this to get there, right? I mean, because you've got many Golden Demon aspirations, it's fair to say.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I'm ever going to get a Golden Demon in, for example, a single miniature category or something. The closest I've got is a pin so far, which is you've qualified to the sort of final round, and I got that with my Halfling Blood Bowl team. So I think sort of the team ones, kind of the group models, is where I can probably do well. I mean, even then, I still don't think I could win something, because ultimately I can't put in that much effort into, I put a lot of effort into my models, but to win a Golden Demon is such a higher standard. You have to put in so much effort, and it's like, I'm a good painter when I want to be, but it's but even then, that's not enough to be Golden Demon standard, I think, because the standard of Golden Demon is through the roof. If you look at who was winning, say, even 10 or 15 years ago, I was like, oh, I could have, if I was this good a painter now, back in early days of Golden Demon, I'd have much higher shot at it, I think. But even then, I don't know. It's like, I don't freehand, and ultimately freehanding is one of the things that you almost need to do to win a golden demon. But yeah, the sort of team ones where you can get away with getting bonus points for cool conversions and stuff there, that's sort of where my bread and butter would be for that sort of thing. But, so I do like to put in some effort to models and go, we haven't had it this year, and I doubt we will, and we didn't have it last year, but the Warhammer Fest, I would always try and take something just to enter the Golden Demon, even if it's something I've not done specifically for it. I'll just be like, what's the best thing that I've worked on in the last year? And then do I need to spend a bit more effort on it to raise that standard a tiny bit more to feel confident in, putting it in and not being laughed at? I try and do something like that. But I've never gone, I'm painting this miniature specifically for Golden Demon. It's always, what am I adding to my army predominantly, and then it's, can I do a good job, and will this be good enough for Golden Demon at a later stage? But yeah, I mean, that as an aspiration it's worth doing. It's worth, when you can go to those events like Warhammer Fest, they're incredibly inspiring just to go to, because you get to chat to the creators. You quite often get to meet other just like-minded people just hanging around, or like quite often I've bumped into someone that lives in Australia, and they've come over for it, and it's like I'm Instagram mates with them, and like I was like, oh cool, you're coming, let's go hang out by the vehicles, and we chat painting techniques for like half an hour, which I did last time.
I thought for a minute there you were going to say let's go hang out by the bike shed. I thought that was going to take on a weird turn.
Yes. Yeah.
But it's weird though, isn't it? Because I suppose to me, like looking at the Golden Demon cabinets is like watching a Ferrari drive around the corner, in so much as I acknowledge it's fantastic and something of exceptional quality and a high standard of, a symbol of quality. But I don't look at, a Ferrari and think to myself, I could own one of those one day. So I sort of just accept that it's something that exists that I will never necessarily interact with.
Yeah.
Whereas, and it's the same with like Golden Demon stuff. I just sort of look at it and go, wow, it's amazing. I love it. But it,
Yeah. I think there's something to be said for doing like a one-off project, for example, where you go, this is a miniature I'm just going to make. It's not for my army. It's not for anything. It's like sort of like a one model or mini diorama display piece. I remember doing it quite a lot as a kid for Games Workshop Harrow, RIP, because it's no longer around. And they used to do like these weekly, monthly competitions, and they were always like make a little diorama on a small, like round base, like a dreadnought size base, I guess. And I did a bunch of them, and they were like really cool and fun. And yeah, I mean, I've still got one of them. One of them was like a Catachan sniper, surrounded by the old jungle trees. And I think I like green stuffed the camo cloak on him and stuff, and repositioned him around based on one of those old stormtrooper Cadians, I guess. Yeah, and I've still got that somewhere, and it's like just really cool. And even now I've done projects like that. So was it a year or two ago? And this is one thing that Instagram is good for, because they sometimes do like community challenges based around a hashtag and try and get loads of people involved. So one of them was, do you remember when Games Workshop released those 40k art cards that were all based on John Blanche's artwork?
Yeah.
So basically, a guy was like, this is the project I'm doing. Contact me if you want to get involved. He draws you a card, as in take one from the deck. Not he draws you one. He'll take one from the deck, photograph it, send it to you, and it's like, that's your model to kit bash and build. So I did that. So I sort of spent, I don't know, best part of like 2-3 weeks in my spare time building it and painting it. And I made like this really cool weird android that's got like, the face was like from a Harlequin mask and all sorts of skinny little weird bits and conversions. And it's like this complete standalone model, never going to include it in an army because it doesn't really fit, for example. But that was really cool fun. And then a more recent one that I got involved with that people listening can probably get involved with was one called The Puppeteer. And it's this hobby box full of bits, basically, going around the globe. Got sent to me. I was number 3. And basically I've got this little box. It's just filled with loads of bits. The idea is you get 1 week. You take as much from there as you want. You make a model of your own creation. So I sort of found enough bits to do like I've called it a Magos Explorator. So it's like an Adeptus Mechanicus guy who's a bit of an explorer. He's got like one of his arms is from the Caradron Overlord, so he's got like a sky pike, for example, and then actually his other arm doesn't exist yet because I've not found the right bit for it. So 90% of the bits I've built from the box, and then I've just chucked in a couple of my own bits to like complete him, and he's still on my little hobby desk to like finish off. And again, it doesn't really fit in with any of my armies, but at the same time I've gone, I had to be like a really cool character to fit in with my Inquisition, and I'll probably play him as was it Joricos, like the little monkeys.
Oh, the little orangutans.
Yeah, and I never really liked the concept of those, but sort of Adeptus Mechanicus Tech Priest seems so much more fitting for that role. So once I finished him off, I'll add him to that retinue as that model, and then I've already posted it off, so he's gone on to the next person. And then basically, and I've, before I posted it off, added loads of my bits from my own collection to the box. So the whole point is the box continually gets used and grows and sort of evolves as people take in and put in to it as they please.
So it's sort of like one of those living cake concepts. You come across that where you get like some self-raising dough or something. It's like got yeast in it or whatever, and then you pass it around and everyone makes like cakes out of the same dough.
The sourdough, I think it is, yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember what specific type of dough it is. I just remember once my wife got one from like people at work. She turned up with this bowl of living cake which takes on a whole weird meaning to the thing. But anyway,
I've not heard of it for cake, but I know you can do it with bread because I know.
Well, bread or cake, I can't remember now. It was a long time ago. I can't remember the specifics.
So it's a cool concept. If people do want to get involved with it, there's a guy on Instagram who runs it. It's Kitchen Table Conflicts. Conflicts is spelled a bit funny. It's KONFLIKTS. So Kitchen Table Conflicts. Just drop him a message, and if there's still space, you can get involved with that. And I know a couple of people that we know, like the Rapid Fire Wargaming guys. They're couple of those are getting involved in that as well, so it's kind of cool.
We're giving War Games a lot of shout outs these days, aren't we? And we're giving them a lot of love.
They deserve it though. Like they
deserve it.
I mean, their armies, their little YouTube channel, it's a bit small, but it deserves to grow. So people... they need
to reciprocate. I just want them to do an episode where it's just them talking about how great we are.
I'm sure they would get us on if it wasn't for the current situation.
Well, that was funny, isn't it, actually? Because, not to take away from, what was his name again? Kitchen Table Cornflakes.
Conflicts.
Oh, conflicts.
That's conflict.
Yeah, not cornflakes. Right, okay. Anyway, that was one of the interesting things as well, right? Because during the latter part of the summer going into the spring, not the spring, sorry, the autumn, going into the autumn of 2020, we were working on a project with the guys at Rapid Fire Wargaming to get together and do some 3v3 style, like mini tournaments type structure that we were looking at. And that was really
like a little one day, it was going to be, the three of us when we had a free versus the three of them. And that was going to be, just a bit of an excuse to sort of hang out and, do some gaming, because I've met them at No Retreat a couple of times now, and they're all like really sound guys. And I think when I think everyone has different sort of levels of gaming and things like that. But some people you kind of just click and gel with really easily because you're into the same things hobby wise, and the way you play the game in a competitive or not very competitive level, you can tell you're on that sort of same level. You're playing it, you want to win, but you're not taking it too seriously at the same time. That's my view.
My view as well, though, man. Like, it's one of the weirdest things I find is when I play people who maybe have known me by maybe some reputation, right, or whatever. Like, I remember I turned up to one tournament once and I was chatting to this nice guy, and and I'd won the last one, but they hadn't given me my trophy yet. So I came first, and it was like the most mad thing where I turned up to this tournament. I'm just chatting to this guy, and I'm not going to I wasn't in a situation where I was about to name drop anything or go like, oh yeah, I won the last one, blah, 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 or whatever it is. But then the guy comes over, the TO is like, here's your trophy. And you're like, oh, what for the last one? Cheers. We're going to have a fun game. Put that down.
No pressure here then.
Yeah, well, exactly. And it's one of those things though, isn't it? Because
did you win though, that game?
I won that tournament actually. Yeah.
What surprise.
That was back in the glory years of 2019, early 2019. When my Elder Army was just mental. It was like I've been playing Elder Flyers for years, and all of a sudden someone came along and said, "Oh, how about if they're the best thing in the game? How would you feel about that?" And it's like, "Oh, that's cool. I can win a bunch. Yay!" Haven't been winning much lately though. Well, mostly because I don't play any tournaments, and that, or anything for that matter, really. And that's the interesting thing. The thing about that rapid fire wargaming thing was that rapid fire wargaming was the last time I probably felt truly motivated by a project. I was working on a 1500, whatever it was, point Craftworld list. The intent was to bring something that was a little bit sort of fun and not ultra competitive, but still had some teeth to it, but it wasn't intended to be super try hard. It was about the fun of it, but it was good. It was motivating to have that to work towards. And I was excited about it for that. And that's like the last time I've been in a situation like that where I was genuinely considering stuff. And for me as a hobbyist, I make no secrets about this. The game is the hobby to me, and that's what motivates me. And without it, it's really difficult because I think I've been hit. So I've been hit probably by three main factors. Factor number one is I'm not engaged in any kind of like local scene. So where I live, there is no local scene, or if there is, I don't know where it is because it's not in immediate.
They're hiding from you because they don't like.
They probably are. They've heard about my great reputation. They're like, oh God, there's that guy. He's so good.
He goes around with a rucksack full of trophy tournaments.
Well, yeah, 2019 Dan, maybe not 2020 Dan by any stretch of the imagination, or 2021 for that matter, or any of the years prior. But anyway, point is. Oh, by the way, the point I was going to make about that stuff is genuinely a lot of people who maybe know me by some kind of gaming reputation, if that's even possible, are often surprised that I'm actually quite fun to play against, and I don't really want to, that I don't care that much. It's like one of the things that I think strikes a lot of people. And again, I appreciate that sounds utterly ridiculous. I'm blowing so much smoke up my own bottom.
Mean, you're literally waving around your Knight of the Inner Circle award as you talk about this, I can tell. Going, no,
I'm not.
I got all the favourite game votes at a tournament.
I did. But my point is like, and I appreciate for anyone listening, you're like, oh God, what is this guy on? Like, I'm just saying. But anyway, my point is I'm the kind of gamer that just likes the game. I like playing it. I like figuring out armies. I like the fun of it. And there's three elements that affect me. I have no real local scene because I live in a, remote part of Hampshire, and it's there's no one in immediate proximity, and any of the immediate sort of towns and cities are sort of far enough away and awkward enough that I can't be bothered with it. Because I've got
it's like that Reading crew. Ooh.
Well, exactly. Like I've wanted to go down to Winchester more often and play down there, but it's just never really worked out. So no real local scene on my side. No events or tournaments or things to work towards. That's like problem number two. And problem number three is I've yet to find my groove with 9th edition, if I'm totally honest with you. Like there's something I still don't entirely love about 9th edition at this point. And it is affecting me. Like, because I'm starting to romanticize 7th and 6th and obviously 5th edition.
Everyone hated. Well, not 5th.
The one that everyone hated, me apparently. But
I thought 5th was a popular one, or was it not?
It depends. It depends on perspective. The thing was, again, is that in 5th edition, I was mostly playing campaigns and narrative games and more just local scenes as opposed to being engaged in anything ridiculous. Again, I think the problem always is with Games Workshop is they power creep all these codexes to the point that something eventually comes along that breaks it. But yeah, I'm struggling at the moment because one of the things that's really weird to me is it's difficult to feel that spark of creativity when it comes to list construction or army list building, because I don't really like the armies that win. Like when I look at what I have to do to win games, like I look at my Deathwatch army, right? And my Deathwatch army has been built with the express purpose of winning games. And I've gone through it and I've gone, okay, cool. This is the most optimal build I can think of that will get wins. And the problem is with 9th edition, the most optimal way to achieve wins is to have mobile, durable infantry, right? That's how you win, because the whole game is about put this thing on this location, keep it there for as long as possible. Everything else is irrelevant. And that may be a statement made completely because of my lack of, time playing the game. I mean, I've played maybe 20, 25 games of 9th edition since it came out, right? Which is not a bad. Yeah, but compared to the amount of games I would have played in a normal year, I would have played, I don't know, I would have played 5 games a weekend, 2 weekends a month for 6 months or whatever the period of time was on that. So I would have probably been doing 10 games a month. So I would have been at like 60 games, in that period of time. So it's that thing where you're like, okay, it's a different sort of scale of familiarity and knowledge. But I just think that's the thing. I'm struggling with 9th because it doesn't feel like the game I want it to be, because it's much more about stand on the thing rather than, simulating some kind of warfare. Like even 8th edition with all of its problems still kind of felt like the ebb and flow of 40k as I know it, even though I fundamentally had so many problems with 8th edition when it first came out, and those have been expressed on this podcast up to this point. But 9th, I think the systems are better. I just think the missions are absolutely terrible. And I think that's one of the problems I've got with it still, is like, it's difficult for me to feel motivated because I start writing the army lists and I go to my beloved Craft World, for example, and I start writing the army list and I go, well, this won't win. So I've literally got to write an army list and accept that even if I play my heart out, I can't win. And that's just really debilitating to me. And also,
I guess that's like a temporary thing though, because ultimately Elder Craft World hasn't got a codex yet. So that problem might be fixed once all the codexes are out. And I appreciate no one really gets to play many games of 9th edition at the moment. And I think so because of that, we're in this really weird situation where 9th edition has come out. There's been, even though they haven't released as many as they should have, there's still been quite a lot of codexes that have come out. So the game is creeping away from people more than they can kind of consume and understand, because cool, the codex has come out. I've watched a couple of YouTube videos to understand what that codex is about, because I don't own that codex because I don't have that army, right? But then what happens is you're not playing against that army, so you never get to really learn anything about it. It's like, cool, Death Guard's just come out. I won't get to play against Death Guard for probably 6 months at this rate. It's like, all the Space Marine stuff's come out. It's like, I've got the Space Marine book, but I don't have any of the other books. So it's like, I can understand one of those armies really well. So it's, on one hand, it feels like there's a relentless pace of codexes and rules coming out that because you're not playing the game, it's not kind of getting embedded within your brain as, okay, cool, this is how 9th edition plays. So it sort of feels like you're mentally trickling behind what's going on. And there's not really much you can do about that until you can play some games. And then, but then in a way, maybe that's a good thing, because maybe by the time we can finally play games, all the codexes or most of the codexes would have come out. So actually we'd be in this cool sort of situation where the game's much more balanced because everyone's got a codex. And it's not going to be that slow creep of, oh, cool, the next codex that comes out seems to be the most powerful one. And everyone who hasn't got a codex is having to, wait 6 months, getting smashed playing games, going on to God, where's my book? And that was sort of one of the weird things about the FAQ that came out, was that they didn't really do anything to address those armies that aren't getting a codex for a while. Like, they obviously repointed stuff, but they didn't give anyone sort of, specific extra stratagems or rules or
Yeah.
even like a tease of a faction specific secondary that could just tide them over for the next 6 months. A bit like what they did with the old chapter approved, and they gave everyone like some relics because they knew they were really
Chapter
good.
approved 2017. They gave relics and was it one stratagem?
It was a stratagem or warlord trait. I can't remember which.
Yeah, something
or
along those
maybe
lines.
both.
But they gave them something, and then in chapter approved 2018, they actually gave you the beta Sisters Codex as well, which was really cool. I just think there's a thing. I just think fundamentally, I just struggle with so much of where the hobby is at for me normally is in the gaming, and as such, it's kind of weird. It's given me the opportunity now to kind of step away from that type of approach to the hobby, and I'm still heavily invested in it. It's just that I think it's that thing where it's like it's just difficult at the moment to sort of feel enthusiastic about that particular aspect of the hobby. And I've during the lockdowns and stuff, I've built my entire Death Watch army. I haven't painted an entire Death Watch army. I've built it, undercoated it. I've got it ready to go should I ever get to the point where I'm going to play it in events. I've built or am in the process of finishing off my Dark Angels army because for those who don't know, I've been playing Dark Angels for years and I own loads of Dark Angels stuff, and it was very easy for me just to add a couple extra Terminators into a list and be like, cool, there we go, that's going to probably work in 9th edition when the Dark Angels book comes out this Saturday. And then I did like a retro Elder project that didn't really go anywhere because I just got distracted by some other stuff when the 9th edition thing came around. But one of the most consistent things that I keep focusing on is my gaming space and tables and that stuff. That's the thing I really am trying to improve on, I suppose. But what I would say, and again, I'm only myself starting to kind of embrace this logic, but I would argue and suggest to everyone out there that I think easy wins, but also just stuff that you want to do is the time to do it. Because one of the things I'm starting to come to terms with, and one of the things that I am now starting to do, is noticing and realizing that armies are not important at this moment in time, because ultimately, I don't know what's going to be good in 6 months' time. I don't know what's going to happen to my Craft Worlds stuff in 6 months' time. So at this moment in time, I'm pulling back to, well, what do I just want to paint? What do I just want to make? What do I just want to create today?
Yeah.
Like, when I'm sitting down hobby, I'm still approaching it with that mentality of, right, I've got to build an army. But the truth is I don't. I should just be focusing on, today I'm going to paint 5 Custodes because I have 5 Custodes and I want to paint them. Not, today I'm going to build and paint 30 Custodes to make this specific list. It's like, no, just build a unit or paint an assassin or paint, little projects, I suppose. And you've done a great job with that, right, Phil?
Yeah, like that's. I was going to just sort of segue and say that is the joy of doing something like Kill Team, where you can just build a squad and then you can actually play it. You don't have to worry about collecting a whole army. But yeah, so I finished No Retreat, which was an event in September. It was like the end of September, if I recall. And after that, I was feeling a bit fatigued by Krieg and 40k in general, partly because the state of which the Guard Codex is in, but also the state of which kind of the Krieg book is in general. So I was a bit like, and I've been moving towards my Minotaur collection for the last year anyway. It's just something new and different and something I can get a bit more passionate behind. But yeah, the last 2-3 months sort of since then, I've just gone on a complete tangent and I've gotten into more time. And it's like, I found the rules online and I was like, oh cool, this looks really cool. It was basically Joe was doing it with work, and I was like, cool, I'll do that. I don't actually need any convincing. It doesn't even really matter if we play any games, because I'm the sort of person where it's like gaming is secondary, but I do enjoy it and I sort of get the social side out of it. But to me, it was like just a great excuse to go, cool, I'm just going to convert up some models. What models have I got from my existing army that I could already use with very little conversion work? So I've got one of the not Warcry, Underworld's warbands. There's like some ghouls. So I was like, cool, there'd be the ghouls for my undead warband, and then I converted up a vampire, and then I've converted up some, henchmen as well. And, I've even managed to convince, to name drop them again, some people at Rapid Fire Wargaming, because they saw what I was doing and they were like, oh, that's cool. I've always liked Mordheim as a setting and just wanted an excuse to get into it. So it's quite easy to sort of just go down a rabbit hole. And I think that is a thing. You've got to really focus on what you're passionate about right this second, not really worry too much about what's happening in the future, and sort of strike while the iron's hot, because sometimes I'll have a really cool idea and then I won't do anything with it for like 2-3 months. And then by the time I could sort of get into it, I'm just not that bothered. It's sort of like it's been and gone. And I do have some projects that I know I definitely want to get around to at some point, but are, a one-day project. Whereas right now it's like, cool, I'm just going to focus on this. And I think doing more time or something that isn't 40k is it's like a palate cleanser, because it's like I can just forget about 40k for a minute. I can focus on some hobby related stuff, do some conversions, do some painting, and then actually that makes me miss it. So right now I'm like, oh cool, I really want to do my Space Marines. Like I've got, there's some cool new models out. I really want to get them. I really want to get painting my army, because I've spent the best part of this year kind of converting stuff up and building my Space Marines, but I've only got a handful of squads actually painted. So it's like the fact that I'm missing it and makes me want to get back into that aspect of the hobby that, 3 months ago I was completely burnt out by and didn't really want to touch.
I mean, interesting point you raise as well around your enthusiasm with new miniatures coming into the market. I mean, do you see that as a net positive for fighting hobby fatigue, the idea of picking up and starting to work on new kits, or do you find that only enhances people's disengagement or general just frustration because they're just chasing their tails a bit? How do you see this?
It's a double-edged sword, I would say. So one hand, buying new kits is fantastic, but the problem is quite often people will just buy new kits and then they won't build them and they won't paint them, or they just build them and then they won't paint them. It's like what I started when I got back into the hobby, my kind of goal that I stuck to for quite a long time, it was like a year or two. It was just buy one unit, build it, paint it, then buy another one. And limiting yourself like that actually really does motivate you and focus your attention down on one thing. And if you don't do that, you end up kind of getting distracted by stuff. And quite often that can be nice. Like you can dive into a project, go, okay, just leave that for a minute, dive into another project. But if you do that too much, you just get overwhelmed and you go, oh, I'm surrounded by 5 different projects. I just can't be bothered to do any of them. Let's just watch some YouTube videos about how to be a better painter and not actually do any painting. And it's that sort of stuff that you've got to actually avoid. And it's much better to focus on something and do it. And I think part of the hobby fatigue has been around Space Marines for a lot of people. Like they got the new codex, 3 months ago now? And only now... the models coming out. So I think there was a lot of probably frustration for people about, oh cool, I want heavy intercessors, I want blade guard, I want this and that, and it's like they just haven't come out until now. So for me, the new releases coming out was quite exciting. So I went and bought one of each squad for the Marines, because like I want these, so I'll buy them. But some of them I know I'm just going to park for a few months. 1 or 2 of them, like the blade guard, I might build straight away once I get some free time.
Yeah, so I mean, the Blade Guard definitely look amazing, and I know you've done some great work with like converting your Blade Guard. So I'm sure you're going to kind of continue in that theme and try and sort of build that in. For me, it's weird because I am the antithesis of yourself in that sense. I am the flip side of that coin. I'm buying this stuff, and it is amassing around me, and I'm doing very little with it. I'm driven by that kind of retail therapy side of things. I like to support Games Workshop, and I like to buy the stuff. But it has gotten to a point where it's gone stupid. Like I've got probably 3,000 points worth of Tau just sat in boxes. I've probably got
I've never seen you play Tau ever. Oh, wait,
So
no.
I played.
You were. I remember you talking about wanting to do the 8 last year,
I did. Yes,
but
I
that
still
was
do.
it. That the 8 is not 3,000 points.
No. Well, so I bought both Christmas box sets that have come out for them over the last 2 years.
Did you get the
So
Apocalypse box set when that came out?
yeah. Sorry, the Apocalypse box set, the one that came out at Christmas. I also got just a bunch of other stuff. So literally, I've got loads of it, mate. It's like ridiculous. I've got so much Tau, and I haven't built one model. Well, no, that's not true. I built 3 Crisis suits, and you can see evidence of that on my Instagram. There's one green Crisis suit that I made.
Oh, yeah.
But now I'm like, oh, I actually want to do them pink, and I've got all these other ideas about what I want to do with them. Yeah, I like the idea of like pink. I like a pink Tau army. I think that'd be cool. But not like a ridiculous, like, ooh, they're pink kind of nonsense.
More of a
but just
salmon pink.
Yeah,
Of
just like a
refined
nice kind of,
gentleman.
yeah, like they're wearing a pink shirt, like that kind of vibe.
It requires a certain man to rock a pink shirt. It requires a certain man to rock a pink Tau army.
Well, exactly, a pink shirt with a purple tie. That's the kind of vibe we're going with the Tau.
Brilliant.
And a black suit around it, maybe, or maybe a sort of a dark grey, as it were. That was the kind of idea of the color scheme I was going for. But anyway, the point is like, yeah, I've got maybe like 3,000 points worth of Tau, easily 1,500, 2,000 points worth of Sisters. I've got an untold quantity of Marines. I've got an untold quantity of Elder. I mean, like Eldari. I've got loads of it. I've got Knight armies. Custodes, I've got probably 4,000 points worth of Custode stuff kicking around.
Like a little.
I got loads
basically.
of it. Yeah, essentially. I mean, this is the thing. I should realistically just seek to offload it all because it's just gone ridiculous. It's like, this is just too much. It's like, I need to get rid of it. But the thing is it's just a weird process because now I'm like, okay, cool. If I get rid of it, I'm not probably going to miss it, but at the same time, I'll never get what I put in because that's not how the second-hand market works on Warhammer.
Well, I don't.
But
If you bought them from bundle deals and then you sold them individually, then you probably would make a tiny amount of money or break even after fees and stuff. But if you've been buying standalone boxes, then no. And I've said this before: if you are going to have a pile of shame, try not to open anything because Games Workshop takes returns if it's still sealed in plastic. So
yes,
in a way it's like an investment because it means you're keeping the value of that box. And I did it, what was it, last year? I got I traded in some old bits, like I had some like Skaven Blood Bowl team because I was convinced when Blood Bowl came out I was going to buy every single team and every model, and soon afterwards I realized, oh dear god, there's too many, I can't possibly do it. So I traded.
Exactly. You're not sure.
No, exactly. So I traded in a bunch of stuff and got some, some Space Marines and some other bits that I needed for the army that I was collecting right now. So that was super useful, and it helps decrease that pile of shame that I've got. So that was quite useful.
It is the problem with my pile of shame, Phil. There is more in my pile of shame than I will ever paint or collect or build in 10 years. Like, honestly, it's too much. I've gone too far.
Yeah.
The scale is tipped. So I think the only way I can probably purge myself of this problem is to get rid of vast quantities of it. But then I feel a sense of failure because I'm like, but what if I want those in the future?
Yeah.
What if?
I would say every time I try not to, but there's been a few times where I'm like, I just need to sell some stuff, and I'll sell some sprues that I've just got kicking around that I've got from bits, the kill team. I sold off the Admech and the Gene Stealer cult with those guys, but because I do a lot of conversions, it's like having sprues of random bits around is actually really invaluable. So there's been plenty of times where I'm like, oh cool, I wanted that like Archeo pistol from that Admech sprue, if only I'd kept it. And instead it's like, I might have sold it and got my money back, but then I've had to spend £3 or £4 buying just a couple of bits off of that sprue again. So having a healthy amount of bits around you is quite useful, but having masses of armies and, to your level is probably a bit too extreme.
Oh, totally, man.
Games
Like,
Workshop is
it's
probably
gone too far.
loving it, though.
Oh, absolutely, and I don't blame them. I mean, ultimately, I'm great for their business. I mean, if more people were like me, I'm sure they'd be worth even more money, and I'm sure plenty of people are like me. It's just that problem, isn't it? It's like you see that picture of, like, I don't know, what is it, the guy brushing snow off of a roof or whatever it is, and it's like what I've painted, and then the collection, and it's just like he's managed to sweep away maybe like 1,000th of the snow, and it's just everywhere else, and I'm definitely at that point, and that doesn't help me with hobby fatigue. So it's something I've got to, in many respects, it's something I've got to fess up to myself and actually address, because it's probably gotten a little bit stupid in my case. But I don't, bizarrely, I don't buy loads of kits anymore. But the problem is everything I do buy just goes on the pile. Like I have just bought the Eradicators, the Blade Guard, and the Speeder. I bought all three of them. I went, yeah.
That's what I got as well. But yeah, I don't think, the Blade Guard I'll build straight away. The other two can wait, because I'm not as fussed about those. But I do really like the kits. What I would say, though, is one good way of doing it is not worrying about painting to like the highest standard, and just to do a decent tabletop standard for your whole army, to speed up the fact that you can get it on the tabletop sooner. And then you can always, if you do want to improve it, go back and add extra highlights on, add extra layers on, tidy up the bases. It's like my Krieg army has probably been redone about 3 times for the infantry and the vehicles, because I've added on extra layers to them. So my tanks were initially airbrushed, and they had some stippling weather effects on them, and that was it. And then a few years later, I discovered oil washes, so I did the oil washes to them. And then more recently, this year, I sort of went back and I did all the exhausts with a heat effect, and then I put weathering powders on all the tracks. And now I'm like, they're finally kind of completed. And that's taken like 7-8 years to do that to my entire army. But I've, early doors, just to get them to tournaments, they were like quite a decent tabletop standard. They didn't need to look like really great. So, just trying to do something that's manageable for you with the time that you have allocated to your hobby.
Yeah, no, totally, man. I think that's the thing. I don't know what to do with it. I kind of just want to give it all away. Like, it's hilarious. Like, my friend Tom came over for a game months ago, obviously. This was like during the summer. And he brought a Space Wolf army, right? And I was like, oh, you got Space Wolves? You want this? And I just handed him like a battle leader and like some Thunderwolf cavalry that I had. And I was like, do you want them? And he's like, no, I got loads of them, mate. And I was like, oh, I'm not, you just take them. Please just take them. I don't want them.
Christmas around Dan's.
Hey, honestly, Richie came over months ago. I gave him a Contemptor Dreadnought. I was like, there you go, have a Contemptor Dreadnought. I don't want it anymore. And it was and it wasn't a cheap one. It was a Forge World Contemptor Dreadnought with missile launchers and twin heavy bolters. Just have it.
That's mad. But although saying that, you did give me the plasma Hellblasters last time I came over as well. So I was.
I gave you those aggressors, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah, no, there's aggressors as well. Yeah, do you know what? I've got a great idea with the aggressors, because the poses are a bit sort of samey, and it's like I've got some of the easy build ones with the flamers. I'm going to grab some of the heavy intercessors when they come out and make them aggressors, but with nicer poses on the bodies.
Yeah. My mate Andy came around for a game during the summer as well. And he was talking about really wanting Lionel Johnson. And I had Lionel Johnson sealed. And I said to him, what do you give me for it? Honestly, he was like, no, Dan, I can't afford it. I can't afford it. And I was just waiting for him to make me an offer. If he had said to me, I'll give you a tenner, I'll go, yeah, sure. I would have handed it to him for a tenner. I would have done, Phil, because I'm just trying to get rid of it.
It's like, stage. I'm like, you get more grief from the old missus.
No, she doesn't. It's the thing. I've got an incredible supportive wife who loves the fact that I'm so invested in this stuff, and she's amazing, and she just lets me buy it. So it's mad.
Well-
I don't have the same problem as anyone, not anyone else, but many people in our hobby. I don't have to hide it from my wife. She sees it everywhere.
I don't know if
And
I
she's
hide
like-
it, but I do sneak it into the house when possible. And if I have to fess up to it, I will. And she's understanding. But yeah, I don't really want that
No, but-
conversation.
No, it's never literally like, you know, a codex will arrive once a month for, you know, I mean, crikey, in my office space at the moment where I record this, the podcast, I've got a pile of sprues to the left of me, pile of sprues to the right of me. They're everywhere, like, you know, and it's that thing where it's just mad. It's like stuff like, but the problem is as well, I can't say no to bargains, Phil. Like, that's the other thing. Like, Conquest magazine was like,
Oh,
it was like catnip. It was like, literally, I went into a Forbidden Planet in London, and because I was going into London back in 2019, early 2020, like at least once a week for work, I'd always go to the Forbidden Planet, and it'd be like, this week on Conquest, land speeders, and you're like, I don't really need land speeders, but I'll buy 6 issues of Conquest because $7.99
I think
for a
at that
land
time
speeder.
you also like land speeders are really good. They're like a bit of a hidden gem. Can I tell you? So
Hey, I'm building a Raven Wing. I think they're amazing, but it's that thing where you're like, you're like, that's the problem with me. Like, I can't say no to this stuff. I just keep going, why not? It's only $7.99. Why not buy 6? It's like,
I mean,
it's just-
a slight tangent on topic, but with Warhammer Conquest, obviously, so they had re-released the issue 5 with the special captain. So I went and purchased it last week, and I was like, "Oh, brilliant!" And then I got an email from them basically saying, "Oh, it was sold out when you bought it, so you don't get it." I was like, "Oh, boo."
oh,
So yeah, I missed out
I mean, the lieutenant, not the captain.
yeah, maybe, yeah, with the was it Cass? Not Cass, yeah, the walking forwards. I already done one
Yeah.
for a conversion, but I was like, another one would be cool because it's such a cool like leg pose. But the other thing is, so one of those issues, obviously they're like $7.99 each, is now worth £45 on the Games Workshop website. The one that they just released last week, it's 1 sprue, 5 intercessors, 2 lieutenants, and the ancient. And obviously that's the only way of getting the old intercessor ancient. And yeah, it was $7.99. I bought 2 of those, and they're worth 45 quid each now. Kind of mad how expensive that.
Yeah, I'm on eBay, Phil.
Oh, I know. Do you know what? I can't remember if I've used both of them up, but I've definitely
Probably.
used one and a bit because I just want a second ancient because I think they're really cool models, and I sort of want to have one as it is and then one probably to convert up in some manner.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, so I don't know. Hobby fatigue is a real interesting thing, and it comes in all forms, shapes, and sizes. And, you know, I can't pretend that I'm not impacted by at the moment. So I'm not coming at this from a perspective of trying to tell you guys how or, you know, offer advice on how to overcome it. But I'm simply talking through methods that I'm exploring and things that I'm doing to try and battle it myself because, you know, the hobby means a lot to me, as has been established, and I want to keep engaging with it beyond this podcast, and I want to do more this year than I've ever done before. But we'll see, right? I mean, again, what's our friendly community saying in reference to their hobby fatigue? I know we put out the feelers the other day on the social medias, and we got some comments back from people. What are
Well, before we
What do
get
you
into
want to
that, I'm just going to give one last piece of advice because we said we were going to talk about it and didn't. And it's basically doing a campaign or some kind of event with your friends. And obviously, you can do that. And if you've got a local meta, that's brilliant. And obviously, you can't do it right now for a lot of people. But one good thing to do is from now, make a plan to do it when you can do it in the future. So actually, if you go, we're going to do a 500 point crusade or campaign or a slow grow, that's actually really good. But you can actually start that now in preparation, and chatting with your mates can get you motivated. I actually find quite a lot of time to get motivated, like write some lore, like just do a little bit of background for your army or for some characters, helps get the old juices boiling. That sort of thing. And yeah, so I took part in, it was the Oxford Outriders is my local club. I don't normally actually go to it, but they were doing a slow grow campaign 500 points. I was like, I'm just starting my Minotaurs. I'll come along. And I ended up doing went along 3 or 4 times. I was really enjoying it. They had an amazing little campaign system for it. And it was actually nice to meet people in the wider sort of local hobby that I wouldn't otherwise do, because normally quite often I'm just quite happy in my shed painting and doing stuff.
Yeah, it's true though, man. Local scenes are incredibly valuable, as are those kind of collaborative experiences with friends and so on. And we've always had a lot of good intentions when it comes to some of those in the past. And maybe not followed through as much as we really should have done. And it's something that, again, I'd like to focus on and get better at. But I mean, I think the lore thing is really interesting as well, though, because the more energy you put into your army, the more narrative, the more creative that you inject into it, the more engaged you are with it. I mean, I find that a really interesting element. It used to be something that I was really fascinated with about the game when I was much younger. When I was like a kid, for example, and I got into it, I was always, obsessing over the idea of what this character is within the army and scenarios that it might, find itself up against, and building all of that like lore and identity. And it really elevated the game for me in a lot of ways. I clearly don't do that enough anymore. That's what it is, you see. I need to get much more. I need to start, as I'm painting miniatures, start to make more sound effects as I'm doing it, like painting the guns going pew pew, pew bam.
Exactly. Yeah. Get in it that way.
That'll get me in it. But what have people been saying, Phil? Give us some thoughts from the fans.
We've had
our friendly.
We've had an awful lot of comments this time, which is quite cool. We're getting more and more engagement each time. So first comment is from the Frozen Ferrul. He says, hobby fatigue has only hit me the once. I was very good at the whole buy one kit, build it and paint one kit, then buy another, preventing a backlog of plastic. However, during lockdown, my financial situation changed from regular weekly wages to whenever my hobby could be bothered to pay me. I've since moved jobs. So when I had some spare money, I bought a lot of stuff that I'm now still working through nearly a year later. However, I am very close. Out of the huge pile I had, I've only about 10 models left to complete. So a good story of triumph.
I was going to say, we applaud your efforts. I mean, that is clearly not the situation that I confronted, but yeah, there you go. So an individual who has defeated hobby fatigue, does he offer any insights as towards how he did it, or is just
bragging?
Bragging, basically.
But his initial point of, as I said, just buy one kit at a time, build it and paint it, is kind of one of the best ways of mitigating getting hobby fatigue in the first place. The next one is from 2-Bit Paints. He says, for me, it's less about burnout and more about being a hobby butterfly and feeling like I have to finish a project before I can move on. So I would say don't be afraid to set a project aside and start something new if you're not feeling it. The excitement that started you on it initially will come back. It will come back around. Usually when a new codex comes out, cry may do.
I kind of get the feeling that sorry, what was the name of it again?
2-Bit Paints.
2-Bit Paints. I kind of feel like 2-Bit Paints should be doing this and not us, Phil. I mean, that was very insightful and very very poignant. I mean, in a way, that beautifully, succinctly described what we've been trying to express over the space of the last hour much better than we ever could.
I'm sure he would be. He just needs to get on with the video editing, and then we can take it over together.
Is that it? Are you trying to usher me out the door? Is that what you're saying?
I wouldn't want to say it to your face.
Oh, well, that's very, very brave, very noble. Any other fabulous comments? Or
yeah, we've got a few good ones. So Cantor Blue, he's like the new regular. He says
the new regular. Famously plays Iron Warriors despite being called Cantor Blue. Very strange, very strange.
Yeah. He says Instagram is incredible motivation for painting. Can't recommend it enough. It literally drives my hobby passion. Documenting everything from painting to games and tournament reports.
Fair play. I mean, again, as we said, I think Instagram is very good. Not so much for me, but for certainly the more hardcore painters. Definitely a plus point for sure.
Yeah, and then let's do one more from Cadian Sergeant Steele. He says, always mixing it up is the best method I found, paired with always finding other inspiring hobby works or other art. So for mixing it up, he suggests paint 10 guardsmen, then a vehicle, then a space marine, then 4 guardsmen, etc. I never do huge batch work of the same thing, which is actually a good point, because batch work, while speedy, can actually be incredibly boring and can be quite draining. And then for inspiration, he suggests find it everywhere in life, the way art should inspire us. For instance, a lot of my recent inspiration came from the anime Nausicaa, of the Valley of the Wind, with all the cool 80s art and sound effects. I made my 40k Instagram account just so I could follow other hobbyists for more inspiration to help brighten my day and avoid burnout.
I assume you're very familiar with the anime Nausicaa, right?
I've never even heard of it.
Have you never heard of it? It's fantastic.
Where can I watch it?
Netflix.
Oh, right. Okay. I might have to...
It's a Studio Ghibli film.
Ah, okay. Cool.
It's essentially, it's difficult to assert. I can't remember. So it's been a long time since I watched it, so it's difficult to assert whether it's a post-apocalyptic setting or whether it's just a different perspective on humanity's outcome. But yeah, essentially it's about this nation that lives in a valley that's protected from this strange fungal rot thing that's basically overcome the earth, and the main protagonist is this woman who rides around on this air, like a jet ski but for the sky. And there's a war basically happening with people that are trying to overtake the city, and then there's these creatures called the Ohms, I think is what they're called, and they're like these giant bug beasts that are roaming the planet, and they're linked to all the stuff that's going on. It's an incredible film. I've not done it justice. Watch it. It's got a number of plot holes because it's 80s anime movie fun, but other than that, it's superb. You'd love it, Phil. You'd love it.
I'll have to check it out.
I'm sure your daughter would be a big fan as well, right? You should show her. She would be a massive fan. I'm surprised she hasn't even watched it.
She probably has, and just not told me about it.
Indeed. Anyway, any other feedback or comments from people? Oh,
yeah. Well, we've got a few more. Let's do one by JP _Warhammer 40k or WH 40k. He says the link back to a couple of episodes. So terrain projects to break up painting miniatures is my approach. And then he just says, looking forward to listening. Then we got another one from old Folkstorm, who's Toke. He says, for me, hobby fatigue is best battled by completing something. Doesn't matter how big or small it is, just complete something. That's one of the reasons that multiple ongoing projects is good and outright advisable thing to do. So when your trench fatigue hits from painting all those gas mask eye lenses, then you can turn to your hashtag of the Augustine Crusade, which is a project that he's involved in, that I'm also meant to be involved in, but I haven't done anything on it for a long time. And then he says you can then go onto your Orc project or your Space Marines, and if you need to continue on some Inquisition units, sort of like tired legs, you got to run it off. Painting fatigue is best battled by painting. And that makes a fair point. Like if you're, the best way to get your armies painted is just to sort of suck it up and get painting. And I think in doing so, you can find your enjoyment in it. But obviously some projects are just laborious because you are doing things like batch painting, where if you're not enjoying it, maybe you need to just go off and do something else and then keep it on the back burner. Know you're going to get around to it again, and I'm sure you will.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, I mean, again, it's all fantastic advice, to be fair. I've learnt a lot from this process, and will continue to reevaluate my own relationship with hobby over the coming weeks and months, as it were. I think the first place I need to start is I just need to sell or get rid of so much of the stuff I've got. It's just cluttering up my mind, I think, at the moment. So I think that's probably a good place to start. So I guess if anyone's in the market for a lot of random stuff, you know, well, maybe. I don't know. The problem is it's too much of an administrative exercise to sell it as well. Like I've had this problem before. Like I used to have a ridiculously large video game collection, and I just didn't have it in me to sell it all because it was just too much of a job. So I ended up giving it to someone to sell it on my behalf because I was so lazy. It was like, I really can't deal with this. You take it and, you know, deal with it. So maybe I need to find someone to sell all my 40k stuff.
You basically need cash converters for 40k.
Honestly, that is what I need right now. I need to just be able to go take it, give me money, and we'll be fine. Yeah. Anyway, there you go, guys. Well, look, I mean, hopefully that's been an insightful and or useful update on how myself and Phil and many from our lovely community of losers, as we love to call ourselves now, you know, in terms of hobby fatigue and what that is and how you tackle that. I mean, again, really actually appreciate the feedback from our community members because in a way that's been really insightful and useful. And obviously good to hear Phil's perspective on it. Appreciate that I'm probably not much in the way of a motivational speaker when it comes to this particular side of things. So yeah. But all the same, guys, hopefully you enjoyed it. I think it was quite an entertaining little segment. I mean, what do you reckon, Phil?
Oh, no, I thought it was really good.
Good.
Nice to break it out from, you know, the Codex reviews, which we seem to be doing a dime a dozen of lately. So, yeah, no, it's good to have some general hobby chats.
Exactly. And on that, we better move on to the bit that we do after this, which is our general, you know, rambly outro bit, where we'll probably end up talking about broader general things that have been happening, right, Phil?
Yeah, well, last week, if you remember at the very end, I teased, we left them with, I'm going to talk about the new kits.
Exactly. So we're going to do that next, I guess.
For sure.
I kind of want to touch upon the Las Vegas Open as well.
No, if you must.
Exactly. See, well, you know, you can push that back to next week if you want. We'll see how it goes. Anyway, we'll get on with it next. Transitional noise. Woo! And that is it, everyone. The end of the show. Although you know better than that, it's not really the end of the show. It's the bit of the show where we talk about stuff towards the end of the show, and then, you know, come to some kind of awkward conclusion, and then say goodbye, and then go our separate ways. Joining me still is good old Phil. How's it going, Phil?
All aboard. Last stop. See, ties in.
We've been having a number of internet-related issues this episode that hopefully, through the power of editing, you, the listener, won't be too negatively subjected to. But there has definitely been some mild delay between the two of us throughout this process. So hopefully we've papered over the cracks somewhat sufficiently, right?
Seamless transitions, yes.
Yeah, that's the hope and expectation on that side of things. But again, if it has been a little bit choppy in places, we apologise. I don't know yet because I've not gotten to the point of editing it altogether. But yeah, it's not been the best from a connectivity perspective this evening. But anyway, enough of that nonsense. Let's just talk in the general sense about stuff that's going on. And I know, Phil, you want to talk about the new releases that will be out today, Saturday, the day this podcast goes out.
I know, gleefully rubbing my hands together if I get it in time or not. Yeah.
You definitely will. It's going to come in around Monday time, right?
Yeah, that's true. It never comes out when you expect it to.
Sometimes it arrives on Saturday. I've had a few deliveries on Saturday from Element when the new releases are coming through, but
yeah, because
not consistent.
I put my order in with Element just because they're my kind of go-to for a bit of discount. Although they said the releases aren't coming till like 22nd of February, so I might be waiting a while for these ones.
Oh, really? We're going to be waiting that long, are we?
Well, I mean, our good buddy Sean mentioned something earlier about how the release dates got pushed back, I think due to just stock issues, and then maybe that's kind of come back again. So I need to double check if it really is going to be that long, but it might just be they just didn't get enough stock allocation for things like the Blade Guard. Yeah, but I wanted to talk about a couple of things in particular with these pre-orders, because obviously I was looking at the kits and I just wanted to actually gush about how cool these kits are. Specifically, of all things, the power gamer models of the Primaris Eradicators. So I was looking at them on the Games Workshop web store. And have you noticed that effectively the barrels have been pre-drilled, and the kind of vents on the side of the melter guns, you can see through them all the way through the model?
It's next level, molding technology they're using here.
It really is. When I saw that, I was pretty blown away, because I was like, oh, is that what they're meant to look like? Like, obviously people drilled the barrels, but the side vents, I've never even considered that they are that kind of housing is so hollow. And I was like, oh, wow, that's really cool. I just really like the look of it.
For me, I never assumed that they were. I think when it came to like melter guns, I always assumed that they were more of a kind of solid unit that was then kind of like blasting out like waves of heat. So I assumed that these were some kind of like, I don't know, filtration system or whatever that kind of funneled all the insane inferno of energy out in sort of one direction. But yeah, because
I guess they're basically like heat exhausts, really. So it's just for,
because surely, because that's the thing, isn't it? Right? Because if you actually had holes on the side of a melter gun, wouldn't that lead to a lot of like escaping energy out the sides and stuff, rather than channeling it in one direction?
Well, if you want to get technical, no. So something similar exists even for things that are solid projectiles, like tanks, for example. Their main battle cannon will quite often have two small vents on the side of the barrel. And when it comes to that, then there is a technical name that I cannot remember. But basically, it's so all the hot air and steam that is from behind the projectile can then actually get pushed out. And apparently it makes it, I think there's two reasons. Apparently one, it's meant to help the projectile come out more somehow, because it's coming out of somewhere. But the main reason is so smoke dissipates to the sides. So one, it aids visibility, so you don't have a load of smoke just wafting in front of your main gun, so you can't see what you've just shot at. But the other thing is, because it disperses it, it makes you less visible to the person that you've just shot at. Now, whether this is the same for these guns, I presume not. But I mean, it could just be it's a longer form of barrel, but as you say, it dissipates the heat to the sides. Or it just looks cool. I mean, it's kind of like an exhaust, isn't it, on it from a car, but with holes in.
Yeah. The other thing that's extraordinary about this kit is the amount of heads that it's got in it.
There's 20 heads for 3 models, and I think it's because you get basically all helmeted ones and all helmetless ones, and with a variety of different sort of hairstyles in between. And in a way that's kind of good, because while obviously 20's madness, but it also is going to still then be compatible with all your other kits. So your maybe Inceptors to a lesser extent, but your heavy intercessors, your aggressors, for example, like you could use these kits for all of these other Gravis armored units. So I think that's quite cool that they've done it. It'd be interesting to see, because they've not really shown us many of them, so it'd be interesting to see what they look like.
Next to none. I mean, I think obviously it's going to be interesting to start to see eradicators that are actually wearing helmets, because obviously the easy build eradicators do not come with helmets. So
so 2 of them do, what the sergeant doesn't. And I kit bashed him to have a helmet by taking, I think I took an Inceptor one, but the sides of like to the top of the your main like little mohawk bit, you have to green stuff some extra bits on to make it look particularly like the Eradicator ones. So the 2 regular guys get helmets, but the main guy came helmetless. Although he gets the front part of the helmet, so he's got the gas mask type vibe going on.
Which makes sense, right? If you're going to be shooting, molten energy at people, you probably don't want to be you don't want to be breathing that stuff in on a regular basis,
No.
even if you're a space marine.
And-
I can't imagine that there's too much for your life expectancy.
No, I know. And the thing is, so one other thing confused me about this kit, and they didn't make it obvious, and it took me a while to actually clock it. And I was looking at these kits and I was like, oh wow, these models are way better than the easy builds. Like, they've got all this piping that joins up to their backpack, and their backpack on the other side has the fuel canister, whereas the easy build ones, the fuel canister just goes at the bottom of the rifle. And I was like, oh man, like, these are really cool. But then I realized that the ones that they preview on the Games Workshop website, these are the heavy eradicators and not the regular ones. And I didn't even realize that was a thing for some reason. I completely overlooked that.
Well, yeah, the heavy eradicators or the heavy melter rifles or whatever.
Yeah, the heavy melter rifles they get. Yeah,
they're utterly devastating, mate. I mean, they're such a strong option.
Yeah, I mean, I was literally looking at it just before we did this podcast, and I was like, so they get +2 damage by default, which is for the assault variant, is the bonus you get for being within half range, and the heavy ones, same range, same strength and stuff, but when you're within half range, you get +4. And I'm like, wow, +4, and you get to shoot twice. That's pretty bonkers.
It's absolutely bonkers. I was using them for a while in my Death Watch, but I kind of feel like that you were all right with like the regular eradicators. I feel like you're getting a little bit into the realms of overkill at this point. But
yeah, see, so my question is, the heavy ones seem really good, but from a practical point of view, the assault ones are probably better because they're more mobile. There's no -1 to hit, unless, of course, you are advancing. But basically, it means you can still run and gun a bit more, and you can use that ability to actually get within your half range a bit better. Whereas with the heavy ones, it feels like no matter what you do, you're still shooting at -1 if you do want to move them to get within half range, or you just sort of sit them back in your deployment zone and just shoot at stuff that they can see, which might be a cool, viable option. A bit like why I quite like the heavy Hellblasters as well, because they've got just some decent long range firepower. You don't need to worry about getting in close for the rapid fire. So yeah.
No, I mean, it's an absolutely gorgeous kit. It's fair to say. I think, ever since these guys kind of came on the scene, they've been a very, I wouldn't say they've necessarily been polarizing, because I think people have been pretty universally accepted.
They've been the boogeymen.
Yeah, the boogeymen is the way to look at them. Much like many things have been in the past, these guys are very, very, very strong. And, it's always good to have strong units and interesting units like this. And I think, the fact that they've actually brought out a really good kit that supports these guys is pretty great. And the fact that they've taken the time to actually give us more customization options for the broader selection of Gravis stuff that we're going to hopefully be able to gain access to as Marine players is going to be exciting, because potentially, I mean, we don't know what comes in the heavy intercessor box yet in terms of the sprues. But if, for example, that's a little bit more bare bones in terms of head swaps and options, getting that and one of these kits is going to obviously be invaluable in terms of adding more flavor to your units and making them feel a little bit more unique, I suppose. So that's something that's quite exciting.
Yeah, because weirdly, when I first saw these kind of heavy eradicators, I was like, oh, am I going to have to, because I was like, oh, I'll kit bash my old ones to look like these ones, because I just love the cabling option. And it's like, one of the reasons why I like the heavy Hellblasters is because of the cabling, because like, I'm going to hazard stripe the hell out of these cables, because I think it's a nice little like visual thing for my Minotaur's army, but also it hints at their secret Iron Warriors past. So anything with cables on like this, I'm like, one, it looks better as a model, and two, it means I can put some hazard stripes on it, so it looks kind of cool. So part of me is tempted up, maybe our even though the assault ones are probably better, maybe I'll kit bash those ones with some like green stuff or something to make some cables and do a similar kind of conversion to make them look more like this, or I'll just do one of each, so I've got one squad of each. I'm not sure.
Yeah. I again, there's so many ways and so many options and so many things you can do with, again, more expansive content within this range. And I think, the Gravis range is very quickly becoming a very interesting and desirable range of Primaris Space Marines. I mean, certainly more so than maybe Phobos before it. I feel like Phobos has got some interesting elements, but it's never necessarily achieved the same overarching kind of visual appeal.
Yeah, I've always really liked the kind of classic intercessor model. When they first released the kits, I really liked the Gravis stuff, like the Inceptors kind of won me over when I was finally looking at them. So, and yeah, the Phobos stuff I've never really liked all that much, whereas I've led towards more of a Gravis, because to me that just seems so much more like Space Marines than the lighter, scouty Phobos stuff.
I think the thing that's weird with the Phobos stuff as well is, I mean, one, they're still missing a multi-part plastic kit for the suppressors, which were available in the Shadow Spear. That's what it was called. Box set. So that's still something they're missing. And also, bizarrely, there's a weird level of kind of fixed poses and maybe a little less kind of flexibility with certain elements of the Phobos range, because you've got the Eliminators, and the Eliminators are very much, I mean, they're beautiful kits, but they're very fixed to what they are. I mean, sure, some fantastic converters could do some amazing work with the Eliminator kits, but the Eliminator kits are very much their own thing, and then you've really only got two Phobos kits that are really flexible in any way, which is the Infiltrator / Incursor, and then the Reavers. And again, it's a weird set, the Phobos ones. I totally get it, but it's a strange one, needing of some expansion, I suppose. And obviously not content with having done a Gravis kit and an Intercessor sort of standard kit, and then obviously the Phobos, we have the Blade Guard, which represents something else entirely, which I guess is more the ornate, more the artificer angle of the new Primaris Mark 10 armor, whatever, Mark X or whatever it is, because this is not Gravis nor is it intercessor armor, it's somewhere in between. And obviously now we're starting to see these fabulous new Blade Guard kits, and we're obviously accustomed to them. But yeah, it's just interesting what they're doing with the range. But I mean, how are you feeling about the Blade Guard kits? What do you reckon?
Yeah, well, the Blade Guard one I think was just an instant buy for me, because it's like I loved what I've been converting up on the regular ones. So I've been making mine more look like sort of Spartan. So I've been removing the kind of inner tabard that kind of goes under the armor, replacing that with some green stuff to sculpt in some abs to be very sort of Spartan-esque. And then I've been using my Tarujas kit, which are like the leather belts hanging down to kind of cover the groin area. So I've been using that. And then the shield that I've been making, I'm going to swap out. So I should have a very kind of Greek-inspired Blade Guard by the end of it that just look a bit more different. And I quite like that. Obviously, the old, like the official kit is fantastic. And that fits very much of that kind of Black Templars, as you say, aesthetic, which isn't the look of my overall army, which is why I've been kind of basically taking away some of that ornate style to them. And yeah, I'll just do the same with the new build. I hope it'll be a bit easier to do than the easy build ones. But yeah, so I'm looking forward to getting my hands on that. I like that some of them have got some really cool poses. There's a guy cleaning his sword with some cloth. There's the shields that get mounted on the back.
That's the one I like the least, by the way.
Yeah, only because it's painted up in a chaos symbol.
And not even for that reason. I mean, that is ridiculous, because why a Space Marine would use some tainted piece of chaos cloth to clean his sword is insane to me. But the very fact that he needs to do it is bonkers, because these things are power-infused, razor-sharp swords. So they only need to turn the generator on and all the blood would just evaporate. To
we know that for sure? Like, potentially.
Yeah, it's relatively consistently, stated that literally these guys turn on the power fields in their swords, and they just basically light up like they,
Maybe he's just sending a statement to that other guy that's looking at him funny over there. He's like,
Yeah.
You're next. This was your
he's
mate.
showing off to everyone that actually he's sort of like hidden in plain sight. He's like, no, I'm a heretic Astartes. Don't worry about me.
Or maybe his sword's broken and he needs to replace the batteries. So he's got to do it old school.
Maybe he does. I mean, absolutely, this isn't something worth getting on our high horse about. Certainly not, because who cares really? But it is so weird that their design department went, yeah, use a chaos rag to clean a sword. Like, no, like never. It would never happen, right? Like it's unless it is an indication to us that there is something altogether off about Primaris. That there is some, this is the subtle hint that this is the work of the Chaos Gods.
Speaking of the work of the Chaos Gods, what do you think about the Combat Patrol Dark Angels box?
Well, before I get into that, one of the last things I wanted to say about these Blade Guard kits that was really interesting is every one of these sculpts, every one of these figures is its own sprue, which is something we've not seen since... I don't think we've seen it. I think the Death Shroud Terminators might be fixed poses, but maybe they're only single poses, and I don't know if they come on individual sprues. But each of these Blade Guard essentially come on their own, almost, character-like sprue, which is really interesting.
Right. But then they just get the sort of different head and arm options then.
Correct. And what's interesting to me is going to be how much potential flexibility there is to kind of mix and match bits, because a lot of the time with these single pose type miniatures, it takes a lot more sculpting to try and get different arms on or muck around with slightly different poses and so on.
Yeah, I mean, that in itself is a fantastic topic for another time. But what I will say is, so what I find with these, because if you look at them, you get things like the knee pad and the front, for example, is completely one piece, and then you get the back is one piece. It's like you've got to kind of semi-assemble the miniature first, and then you can go, okay, I'm going to cut this leg up from the joint. So if I want to repose the leg, it's like, yeah, there's work involved, but I actually prefer it this way than the monopose one.
No, I mean, look, it's a happy medium. It's somewhere between. Again, a good amount of like head options on these guys as well, though, because I think they give you like 6 or 7 different heads or whatever, which is quite cool. So, I mean, again, it's a good looking kit, and I've purchased it. I look forward to putting it all together. But yeah, the Heroes of the Chapter one, which we kind of talked about already, with the fact that it's essentially something that you could buy for $7.99 before. A fair bit of controversy around the pricing of this. Now, it's funny, we actually talked about it when it came to everyone's attention on Saturday when it went up for pre-order, and I was like, well, sounds about right when you consider that, one Space Marine character at the moment is retailing for something like £25. So when you think you're getting 2 lieutenants, an ancient, and a squad of intercessors, £45 is actually, compared to some models that you can get access to, quite cheap. I think the issue is that people obviously have it in their mind that once upon a time, this would have gotten them the contents of this box plus a Death Guard army and a bunch of other stuff for not a whole lot more money. And I do understand that frustration, but at the end of the day, I'm glad it exists, but I'm not going to be falling over myself to buy this box anytime soon. I mean, I already have all this content because I had Dark Imperium, so I already own all this stuff. So yeah, I'm not going to be clambering over myself to buy it anytime soon. But I mean, Phil, have you got much interest in this? I mean, you've already purchased this multiple times yourself, right?
Yeah, as I said in the sort of previous segment, yeah, I bought it twice when it came out in Warhammer Conquest. Obviously, if you're in a country where Warhammer Conquest hasn't come out yet, then you this is kind of your only way to get the ancient anymore. I mean, there might still be copies floating around on eBay that are still going relatively cheaply, or splits where people have bought it and broken them down. If you just need like the Ancient or a Lieutenant, the Lieutenants I think are fantastic. Like, I've done some cool like little conversions with them. It's weird because for a lot of sort of seasoned Space Marine players, it's like, do you need another 10 intercessors? Probably not. But if you haven't got that Ancient yet, it's probably worth getting because it's a cool model. And and as we said before, you can't get it anywhere. Like, there is no individual regular intercessor armor Ancient. So that's the only one you can get at the moment. So, and as you were saying about the suppressors? Like maybe they're come back in a similar kind of kits where they're just, it's the Dark Imperium was out, what, 4 years ago now?
3 years, 3.5 years.
Yeah, it's a 3-year cycle, isn't it? So 3 and a bit. And it's like, and they've only just now started splitting out that original box into different components. So it'll be a while before they do the Shadow Spear one, I guess.
Yeah. It is expensive though, right? And I sympathize with people who have that perspective. If you haven't picked this stuff up and you do really want this Primaris Ancient, it's expensive.
Yeah,
but
it's like you're buying it. Basically, this is the non-bargain way of buying it. It's like when you buy an individual character, it's the most expensive way, whereas the Combat Patrol boxes or Dark Imperium or the Christmas Christmas boxes, the Apocalypse boxes, these are all the value for money saving box sets. And if you want to get models, that's sort of, you're best off saving or waiting till these things come around. But this is, as you said, 3 and a bit years later from when it first came out. This is the overpriced version, which is unfortunate, especially when it was so cheap in Warhammer Conquest. So yeah, it's a bit of a shame, but I kind of get where they price pointed at. It sort of makes sense.
I still feel like, even by their standards though, I still feel like it's a $5 more than they should have pushed it for.
Even if it was like 30 quid, that would be still a lot, but it's like,
totally
pretty decent at the same time.
I think people would have still been annoyed at 30 quid. I think people would definitely been annoyed at 40 quid. I think 45 is too much. I think it's just when you're getting into a situation where you're like, guys, you've pushed it over the threshold. It's always like I say about Games Workshop in so many things. It's like you go to Warhammer World and you go, oh, I want to go around the exhibition. Cool, that's £7.50. And you go, oh, it sort of feels like it's $2.50 more than it should be.
Yeah, I guess. So if you were to compare it to that new Dark Angels Combat Patrol box, that's 40 quid extra. So that's 85 quid. And with that, you get your 5 intercessors as before. You get 2 characters. You get your chaplain. Oh no, maybe you just get a chaplain.
You just get the one chaplain.
But you also get the Dark Angels upgrade sprue and a transfer.
You get 2 Dark Angel upgrade sprues.
Yes, so that the 2 sprues and 1 transfer sheet is the upgrade pack. So that's like 1 box, I guess.
Oh, are they now? I always thought they just sold 1 sprue in those upgrade packs.
I think it's 2 sprues plus a transfer sheet. I'm pretty sure that's
I know that's what's in the box. I'm just saying, normally when you buy the sprue, you just buy a single sprue.
Oh, I thought it was 2, but I could be wrong. I've never bought one.
Anyway,
but in addition to sort of what you pretty much get with the that one, obviously you get an extra character because you're getting the Ancient plus another Lieutenant. In this one, you get a Redemptor Dreadnought and 3 Inceptors. And each of those, like Redemptor Dreadnought's got to be, what, 40 odd quid on its own?
So yeah, it's 35, something like that.
Yeah, the Inceptor's got to be
31.50 probably now.
I can type it in.
I'm glad you're typing it in.
30 quid.
Yeah.
And the Redemptor, also out of stock, is 40 quid. So, that's 70 quid for of models, sort of in effect for 40 quid more. Now, you're missing 2 characters, but and arguably they could be 25 quid each. So maybe it does balance out.
It's almost like they should have done a Combat Patrol that featured that selection plus a Dreadnought, or that selection plus a repulsor or
I
something.
think, yeah, that would sort of hide the fact that it's just a one sprue. I think
Yeah.
that's the thing that annoys people. It's like they know that it's just one sprue's worth of stuff.
Oh yeah, totally.
Even though it's actually in a normal kit, that would be like 3 or 4 sprues at least.
Yeah. No, I absolutely understand what you're saying, mate. And I think that's the thing with these is that I think I understand the community's frustration at it. And I echo their sentiment. I just think at the end of the day, I have a certain degree of privilege because I already own all this stuff and I was able to buy it at a very discounted rate when it was the loss leader from 3 years ago. I mean, what was interesting to me though with these Blade Guard veterans, can I just say as well, the Blade Guard veteran kit, I was surprised that there isn't an ancient variant in that kit.
Good point. So in a similar way, you can't get the ancient anywhere else other than Indomitus.
Yeah, and that's
then also same with the captain and lieutenant version as well.
The captain and lieutenant you can pick up in smaller box sets. So the captain is available in the smaller starter kits for certain, as is the lieutenant.
Oh, right, yeah, they still sell.
So there are ways for you to get the Outriders, the Assault Intercessors, the Lieutenant, and the Captain, and potentially even the Blade Guard, but there was not a way for you to get the Eradicators, nor the Blade Guard Ancient, nor the Chaplain as well. The specific Chaplain is not something that is easy to come by. And that was interesting to me because, again, it's sort of has the same problem that we probably are going to see in 3 years' time. That, when 10th edition rolls around, the Blade Guard Ancient is going to be some 45 quid box with, some other stuff. Although I can't remember if the Blade Guard Ancient was on its own sprue, so maybe that's something that they can adjust.
It was bundled in with the Chaplain, and
yeah, I think so. So maybe they'll do
that is the problem with those kits for boxes. They've sort of designed them in mind for that box alone and not for selling it separately at a later date.
And then the last of the things of the, well, not the last, because actually the Psychomancer for the Necrons has sneaked into existence as well in the pre-orders, but the Storm Speeder is also coming to the fore. Now I've been building Land Speeders again, and it's amazing how diddy the little old Land Speeders are. Like when you actually build them and you put them next to something, you're like, wow. I sent a photo to you the other day, Phil, where it was like a Land Speeder next to a Custodes Terminator, and I was like, wow, look how small this thing is now. Yeah. I don't think the Storm Speeder is going to have that same problem, wouldn't you say so?
No, it looks pretty beastly. What I like about it is that it is actually really big. And what I sort of want to see, not that they necessarily will, but it's like all the flyers in 40k should really be these kind of skimmer variants. They shouldn't be airplanes. And it's sort of been said before, it's like the concepts of an airplane flying over a 60 by 44-inch board and sort of actually interacting with what's on there doesn't really work because airplanes just technically work at a much higher level. It's like you'd say, if it was a bit more realistic, you'd get like one strafing runner game and that would be it in the course of how the game's sort of playing out. So having things that are flyers that aren't like actual flyers because they're skimmers, I think is probably going to be better and sort of healthier for the game overall. It's still probably just as, loaded up to the nines with guns and stuff. So, you're just changing how the naming convention of it and the law.
I like the new flying stand, though. I like the look of it.
Cool. Yeah.
I'm really hopeful that it's good. Because, it looks like, and again, this is speculating based on what I can see, but it looks like it's obviously much thinner than the established flying stand, and where the current flying stand is like a cross section of plastic, so it's like a plus sign or whatever you want to say, where it sort of runs up the length of the flying stand. This is one solid, consistent piece of clear plastic ending in what appears to be a ball joint, and those can be quite problematic sometimes because sometimes models will tip and tilt on those ball joints. So if it's not particularly well constructed at that point, it could be quite interesting to see how that actually works in practical terms when playing games, because I could easily see this thing just kind of, folding and sort of flopping all over the places you're playing.
I'd assume it's based on the same one that's used by the Caradron Overlords for AOS, because they've always been the precursor of using things like the kind of slightly curved flying stand.
Yeah, because this will be the same. This will be the same that the Adeptus Mechanicus Birdman plane helicopter creature had.
Yes, although I thought that one was distinctly, was it like Archaeothopter?
Archaeothopter might be the name of it, yeah. But I think that's the thing. I mean, it's cool to see. I mean, hopefully it will be better than what the flying stands have been like for the infantry. I mean, those have been notoriously bad, but yeah, I'm intrigued by it. I think, again, I've purchased one of these. I purchased the Blade Guard. I purchased the Eradicators, much to the points that I was making earlier. So I'm interested to see what it is. I've no idea right now what kind of build I want to do for it, because I think one of the sad realities of 9th edition at the moment is that vehicles really aren't very good at the moment, which is a real shame, because they are releasing some interesting vehicles. It's just the game just doesn't seem to massively support it. And I put that down to a number of factors, which I guess we don't necessarily need to get into at this point. But yeah, it's an interesting series of releases. And just because obviously we don't want to sort of seem biased and all the rest of it. I mean, Phil, have you taken a look at the Psychomancer? I mean, you were particularly impressed with that kit?
He is very cool.
I mean, easily one of the most beautiful Necron sculpts that they've done. I mean, the fact that he is effectively creating some kind of digitized screaming skull face made of like energy is just absolutely gorgeous. I think there is a lot to like about this kit.
Yeah, the new style of like effectively like spells that the Necrons are doing, where they've got this kind of digital effect, I think is really cool and quite clever. It's like, I've never seen anything like this before on a model. That's pretty awesome. I also like his very tiny, like bug-like legs. You know when like a fly dies and it's on its back and the legs are all like curled in on themselves. It's just like that, and it looks amazing.
It is really, really cool. It's fair to say, and I think again, an excellent job done by the team over at the GW Design team studio thingy, because it's spectacular. So it's an exciting release period for sure. I had hoped that we would talk about the LVO, or not the LVO, the LV Nopen. But to give people an insight into how this all works on our side from a technical end, I'm being informed by our online recording subscription service that we pay for monthly that we are now 2 minutes away from our subscription ending for this monthly period. So, despite our desire to keep talking to you about 40k related things, financial constraints as they are mean that we have to close this chapter of the Lookout Sir 40k podcast prematurely, Phil.
I know we do accept PayPal and checks, so if you want to support us for the next episode.
Well, we don't, Phil. We don't. That's the problem. You see, maybe if we did, we could navigate these problems better. But it's what it is, right?
Unfettered access to our opinions.
Yeah, exactly. But whatever the case, I think actually that was a pretty entertaining episode, and we look forward to joining you again next week. We don't know what we're going to talk about yet. Maybe we'll do Dark Angels, seeing as they're a thing, aren't they?
Well, do you know what? It depends when the White Dwarf comes out, because I really want to talk about Maelstrom of War.
Oh, mate, I absolutely want to talk about Maelstrom of War. I am very excited about that potentially returning.
And then on that note, goodbye, everyone.
Indeed. Goodbye, guys. Have a good one. Bye-bye.